my name is Melinda Mitchell. I am the Bureau Chief of Field Services for the entire state of Florida for vocational rehabilitation. And I have been working in the field of rehabilitation, as Jan said just a little while ago, for 40-something years now. But I love it. And I love it.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Wow. I know. But I do love it. And I've been in it all these years because how much it means to me personally and how wonderful it is to see someone go from despair to the unknown to actually having a meaningful career and being so proud of themselves and their families being so proud of themselves. So that's why I stay in it. I hate PowerPoint presentations, I just want you to know that. But of course we have to keep it. But I want to keep it informal. I would like you to ask questions. Don't mind if you interrupt me. Please do, because I like to talk, so we don't run on. But really, feel free to ask questions, because this really is for you to get what information you need. But if you have personal questions that you need to discuss, I can stay, my staff will stay at the end, and we can answer any kind of personal questions. Jan just did a presentation, which was great, and there were a lot of personal concerns that people had, so we can address them for you at the end. Okay? And not to take away from your other workshops. But anyway, so it's a great pleasure to be here. I love Family Cafe. I got put on the spot last night because they had no idea we were supposed to talk, and they said, here you go, get up there and talk. I'm like, what? Oh, okay. But I knew about today. But this is, I think, my 5th or 6th Family Cafe, and I love it. I don't know that they do it in other states, as Governor Bush said, but it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for families with children of all ages to gather information, to start planning, because it's never, ever too early to start planning. So, vocational rehabilitation, what we do is, we are the employment services provider for Florida for individuals with disabilities. We have a big mission statement, we have visions, we have all these things, but when you boil it all down, this is what we're here for. We are here to help individuals, students transitioning into adult life, and adults transitioning into work life. And that's our mission. That's what we're here for. We are a federally funded program for the most part, 78.7%, and 21% state matched. In Jan's presentation, she mentioned that every dollar that we spend on vocational rehabilitation, we bring back to the state of Florida $9 in revenue, which is wonderful because we're helping people get work and they're paying taxes and contributing to society. So it's a wonderful program. We really pay for ourselves in many, many ways. We also have the Ticket to Work program, which draws down a lot of money from Social Security, our recipients, our Social Security recipients, and end up becoming employed and get reimbursed for those services. So, in the state fiscal year 2016-17, vocational rehabilitation helped 5,975 people go to work or keep their jobs. Keeping the jobs is a very, very small percentage. Going to work is the big number. And when you think of how many people live in the state of Florida, it may not seem like a huge number, but it is to us because we're working with individuals who have the most significant disabilities, that need the most services, that require the most attention, the most support to be able to obtain and maintain their jobs. So that is a really good number for us. 98% of those were significant, and the average hourly worked is 28 hours per week, and the average hourly wage was $11.91. This last year we changed our geographic locations in terms of how we divvy up the state for services. We added a new service area, which is the Area 7 area. It used to be part of the Area 5 area, and this was just too large to manage and to provide services, so we broke it apart. So now we have 7 areas, and Palm Beach and Broward, which are heavily populated, as most of you know, are their own area now. So we went from 6 to 7. We have 90 service sites, and we're co-located with CareerSource in 12 locations, and we are working to increase that. As I'll get into WIOA in a little bit, that's part of what we're trying to get categories, which I'm gonna explain to you in a few minutes, are here. Right now, we're currently serving customers who are in what we call category 1 and category 2. We do take people off the wait list. Most people who are on the category 3 wait list stay there about 3 months or less. And if you're on the category 3 wait list, but you have a job and you need job retention services, you come off right away. There is no wait for that. So we're really happy about that because we've come a long way since 2008 when we went into order of selection. Order of selection is something that the federal government makes us do if we don't have enough resources financially or enough staff to provide services. And in 2008, we found ourselves in that exact situation. So we had to declare that we were going into order of selection, which meant we had to prioritize our customers and who we serve first. And category 1 is always the priority of who we serve first. Because that's what we're there for, to help individuals with most significant disabilities get a job and receive the services that they need. And there really is no other source for what we can do. We do, partner with APD, and they do have their sets of services, but they don't have the extensive services that we have when it comes to employment. We are working with them on employment. Everybody wants the same thing for the mutual customers that we have, but we are the specialists in doing this. So category 1, you have to have 3 or more functional limitations, and you require 3 or more primary services. And the services have to last for at least 12 months. Category 2, 1 or 2 functional limitations and require 2 or more services that last at least 6 months. And anybody who's receiving Social Security, Disability, or SSI is automatically presumed eligible. Without medical documentation, you go right into category 2. With medical documentation, the council will make a determination as to whether you're most significant or significant. So, and then category 3 would be no serious functional limitation and does not require multiple services, and the services are less than 6 months. That could be somebody who doesn't need anything else but a hearing aid, just to give you an example. So, now, I'm going to get into this a little bit later, but for those of you who don't know anything about vocational rehabilitation, we've had a massive, major change. For the first 35 years I was in rehab, it went one way, and this was it. You get a referral, you fill out an application, 60 days, within 60 days, and I don't mean up to 60 days, but within 60 days, you would be found eligible or not. You'd receive a letter from the counselor telling you one way or the other where you stood for eligibility. Then within 90 days, you'd have to develop an individualized plan for employment with the counselor, and that should be done before the 90th day. And then as soon as that's signed and approved, services start. The services are outlined on the IPE, and the services are provided to help the individual reach the vocational goal that's written on the plan. So whatever services are required to help and assist that individual to reach that goal is what goes on the service plan, okay? And then, of course, our ultimate goal is the placement. And after a customer has been placed, for traditional customers, 90 days, we would close the case. And for supported employment, what are we up to, 150 still? Okay. Around 150 after stabilization for supported employment customers. Now, we do, everything we do is individualized. Everything is based on the individual. So even if somebody's in the job for 90 days and they still need some more services, we will provide those services and try to make sure that that customer is stable and can keep the job. Okay, here's where we went into the big change. July 2014, Congress passed the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act. We refer to it as WIOA. We've called it all kinds of things, but that's what we finally all settled on. And it really, in my opinion, since I've been in the field for as long as I have, this is the biggest legislative piece that Congress has done that has improved services for individuals with disabilities in a big, significant way. It basically focuses on
business and filling business needs, which is how you get a job. You don't get a job just because you're a nice person. You get a job because the employer has a need and they're going to hire you to fill that need. So there were seats up front and a couple throughout. Sorry. So it really refocused our exchange with employers to really want to help them identify what their needs are and help them meet their needs. We created a whole new branch of employees. They're called business relations representatives. We started out with 2 per area, and now we've got mostly 2 per area, in some areas just 1. But they're working with businesses and developing relationships. They're the pulse on what's happening for future jobs, so that they come back and talk to the counselors about what trainings individuals should be gearing up for, so by the time 2020 or whatever year they're ready to hit the workforce, they know what the jobs will be. For a long time, we prepared people for jobs that were already being phased out of the workforce, and we're really trying to refocus that in vocational rehabilitation. So it changed a lot of what we did. One of the biggest impacts was the age of the individuals that we serve now. It used to be that we served individuals their senior year of high school, junior, senior, but usually senior year of high school, and the federal law used to say we had to have a plan in place, the IPE, by the day they graduated from high school. So we didn't really provide a lot of services for individuals that were younger than 17, 18. When I was first here in Florida in 2003, I used to get a lot of calls from parents, because I was a unit supervisor. They would call me and say, what am I going to do with my son and daughter over the summer? I need something for them to do. They've gained all these wonderful skills this last school year. I'm afraid if they just sit home and watch TV and play video games all summer, by the time they get back into school, they will have lost those skills, and they'll have to relearn them and pick up the momentum that they already had started. And I used to say to them, I am so sorry, we don't have any services for students, your son or daughter's age. I would refer them over to the Career Source. They did have some limited programs, but they were very limited. Now, if you go to Carmen's presentation, now I can tell parents, yes, we do have services we can provide for your son and daughter from age 14 till they're out of school during the summer. And they're great services that will really help students. So I'm really happy about this, and I think this is a wonderful, wonderful change. So like I said, we're taking students as young as 14, and we are providing what's called pre-employment transition services to students in high school and post-secondary education. Pre-employment transition services are delivered to what we call potentially eligible youth, meaning they don't have to apply for services in the traditional way, which was that previous page that I showed you where they apply, they get found eligible, they write a plan, all that. They just are referred by the school district. You can self-refer. You have to have an IPE or 504 to be eligible, and you have to be in school. You can be homeschooled, but you have to be still what we consider a student and in school. So the core services and supports that we're providing for students who are in high school that are just the pre-ed services are career assessment and counseling on post-secondary options, and I'm going to explain these a little bit more to you. Pre-employment training, which is work readiness, work experience, which in the adult world we call OJT, same thing, just different words because of the legislation, and self-advocacy and training and peer mentoring. So these are core services. They're curriculum-based. The providers who are providing these services to our customers have applied to do so. They've developed curriculums that we've approved. So, every student receives basically the same type of service and the same services, regardless of who the provider is. Now, it took us a while to get here. Many of you may have heard that we had to give money back last year because we didn't have those pre-employment services really all lined up. This year we've worked tremendously hard, and I cannot thank my staff all across the state for how hard they worked to get this done. This year, we're gonna spend the money, all the money that we have, which is $22 million on services for students, which is wonderful. Last year, we gave back $18 million, so that's how hard we worked. We went from giving back $18 million to spending $22 million this year. It was a monumental effort. We had to find the providers, we had to train the providers, we had to work with the school districts, help them understand that they need to be making these referrals. One of the legislative things that happened that is still very confusing for all of us is that the IDEA didn't really change when WIOA came out. So even though the school district is one of our partners in adult education, they're not mandated the same way we are to have to provide these services. So it's been a real education process and a real reaching across the aisle to the school districts to help them understand why it's so important. We are getting the referrals now, and the schools do understand why it's so important. And the best part about it is that at the end, the students are receiving the services that they need before they exit high school, which is great. The school district actually gets credit for it, and so do we. So it's a win-win for everybody. So finally they're getting with it and understanding what we all need to do. Let's see. So other intensive services for students in high school or post-secondary would be Discovery. And Discovery is also available for adults. I don't want you to think that it's not. Jan just did a wonderful presentation on this, and we could talk about Discovery if people have questions about it. Inclusive post-secondary education, which is the IPSE programs, where students with an intellectual or developmental disability are participating in programs on college campuses. This was new to Florida. Massachusetts, I think, was one of the first states that piloted this, and we invited them down. We tried to learn from them. This has been a program that has been ongoing for, 5-6 years now? I can't remember. But anyway, and more universities are participating in this with us, and we fund it, and it's a wonderful opportunity for students. They don't get college credit, but they do get to audit the courses, and they get the college lifestyle and the campus lifestyle, independent living skills, that kind of stuff. So it's a great program. We have third-party cooperative arrangements, which is with the school districts. We're not even calling it that anymore, right? Work-based learning experience. See, I just did this PowerPoint presentation yesterday and I forgot. Work-based learning experience, and only certain school districts have opted to do this. I think more will do it this year, and that is that they hire someone to work with a select group of students, because it's a fairly small amount of students, and they go out to the community and they get jobs. So it's a great program. And then we have Project Search, which is another wonderful program that actually originated in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Cleveland, Cincinnati, right? Yeah, right. And again, that's only for individuals who have the most significant disabilities. It started as a pilot working in hospitals, and again, it was started based on what we're talking about with WIOA, the employer's need. The hospital could not find people to work in their surgical lab and cleaning instruments and doing that kind of stuff. They were having problem with food service and some other areas of the hospital that they just had a tremendous turnover, and they were more than willing to bring students in, train them how to do these jobs, and they rotated through the 4 or 5 different jobs that the hospital offered. And the success rate in this is phenomenal. It's like 90-something%, which is really unheard of, whether you have a disability or whether you don't. I mean, that's just amazing that any program like this would have that much success. And by success, I mean that when the student graduates from high school, the hospital is offering them a full-time job with full-time pay, and same as anybody else. It's usually a lot more than what most of my staff make, with benefits and so on and so forth. So, I mean, they're great jobs, and some of them are more technical than others, and we've branched out into hotels, and Sharon, what other places? Huh? Yeah, the zoo in Orlando, we have this program.
Here in Central Florida, definitely, the hotel industry, the hospitals, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, these are great programs that traditionally vocational rehabilitation, that's easy to say, right? Didn't have even 10 years ago. So it's giving students a wide array of choices and opportunities to figure out what it is they want to do with their life, and that's what the whole point is. And you don't know what you want to do with your life until you try it. Jan was saying earlier today, everybody thinks working with animals is great, and who doesn't love a puppy and a kitty and all that. But when your job is to clean up after them, it's a little bit less glamorous. And you need to know the whole job, not just what you think the job is. So this gives students a real opportunity to do all of that. Okay, so I started to say a little bit ago that the pre-employment transition services are delivered to two groups. The potentially eligible, which means they just need a referral and a 504 and an IPE plan. They don't have to apply for services. Or students who have applied and been found eligible for VR. So you can go the two different routes. If you're younger, my suggestion would be that you start off with the first through the pre-ETS program if you don't need other services. Because the 5 services that I listed and I'm going to talk about a little bit are the only things VR can pay for under the federal law that we can provide for students. You need transportation, you need equipment, you need other kinds of services. Then we can't pay for that. You'd have to go through the traditional apply, be found eligible, and then have an IPE and those other services written on that plan. You still could participate in the pre-ET services. All right, so these are the services: job exploration, work readiness, self-advocacy. I'm going to go through them. Work-based learning, OJT. Okay, so job exploration counseling. These are services that review options that are best for the students based on their skills, abilities, and interests and aptitude. It is also in conjunction with the information that we have from CareerSource. What are the top 10 jobs in your area? It's based on the individual's zip code where they live, or the zip code in which they'd like to work. So it isn't just the old pie in the sky, let's just get you a job at Publix. It really is looking at the individual jobs, what's available, what are the trends, all of that kind of stuff. So if a student says, well, I'd like to go on to college, you would work with them in terms of providing them guidance and counseling. This is really what vocational counselors used to do. We got away from, and we're back to it, which I'm thrilled about. And guidance counselors in high school used to do, but they don't do that anymore either. So it's really the only place that students can get this kind of information and start to begin to make some informed choices about their life and what they want to do. And that we know that when the individual is done with the training, whatever level of training that is, there's a job for them, because the job is projected out to 2026 or whatever it is, so, and we know how much it's going to pay, we know what the growth rate is. Those are really important things in making plans and planning your life.
I got a question on that.
Yeah.
Is it the staff at vocational rehabilitation that's doing this?
No.
Or this is?
Well,
from
yes,
the vendors?
I don't want to say no, because yes, we do this. But we also, in this particular instance, because these are pre-ET services, we make a referral to a provider, and the student gets to pick which services they want, or all of the services that they want. They can have all 5, they can pick 1, they can pick 2, they can do a combination. And if they only want to do 1 or 2 this year, and then they want to do it again next year, plus add the other ones, they can do that. They can take these services multiple times. The reason is, in your 14, your life is, you're 14, but when you're 18, your life is very different, and what you're looking to do, and what your world, your understanding of the world, all of that is different. So these courses can be offered multiple times.
And when you're saying it's sent out to others, you're talking about vendors,
Yes.
people that register as vendors through VR.
Correct.
And you probably have, like in our area where there's not very many vendors to provide these services.
We are working on that. Like I said, it was very slow to get this started and get this off the ground. We do have way more vendors now. Do you know what the number is? I don't even
I
know.
don't know what the number is, but the pre-eds are available statewide.
They are available statewide, which we couldn't say that a little while
We have
ago.
to cross the state line into Alabama, our vendors in Alabama,
Where are you, in Pensacola?
Jackson County.
Jackson County, all right. Well, we can talk to you about that. I don't know what we've got, but I can give you my
We're
card.
actually looking into becoming vendors too.
Okay, good. Yay! All right, that's the other thing we love to hear. More vendors. No, we're doing a lot of outreach to try to get more vendors and training of the vendors, because they're all trained in all of this by us, which is great, you know, so, it has been slow. One of the things I really wanted to see was the school districts become providers as well.
And so that's the problem in our area. We're part of a transition council, and that most of our schools have not participated, and they're really pushing to try to get that to happen.
Yes, we are. We're really trying to push the school districts to do this because the student is already there and they've got a captive audience.
Oh, yeah.
Transportation issues, especially when you're in a rural area, transportation is one of your biggest issues. So, you know, it would be great. The other place I would really like to see do this, and I'm not sure if it's possible, but we're trying to work this out, is Career Source.
Yeah.
Because they don't get paid by anybody else to do this at this point. And we all come out of the same pot of money, so we have to be really careful on what we can approve and what we can't approve. But if we could get Career Source, because they're generally on a public transportation line, which we should also be, but pretty accessible for transportation. So, and in some places we're co-located with them anyway, so, you know, it would be great. But we are looking to expand these services because we are starting to see a tremendous amount of referrals coming through the door for these services. So to meet capacity, we've got to expand. So, but please ask questions. I hate just standing up here babbling. So, you need to ask me a question, please do. Okay, work readiness training. This is another thing that the school districts don't do anymore. Some schools used to do this kind of work. They're not doing it anymore because of their budgets and they just don't have the time. And it doesn't meet the FCAT. So, but work readiness training is really your soft skills. It's what does an employer expect? What does the world of work look like? It's your, you know, employability skills training, which means you have to be on time. And employer's not going to just say, okay, you can come in 20 minutes late, that's fine. No, especially with the younger kids, because they don't really quite understand that being on time is important. It's independent living training skills, navigating the community. Earlier, someone asked me, or asked Jan, were we doing anything about fiscal training and fiscal management and all of that. That's not in this yet, but maybe that's something that we should add as a component, and that was a really good idea that somebody had about that. Because it's one thing to make money, but then how do you manage it, you know, so, anyway, or just the basics on it. So, self-advocacy training and peer mentoring. We have 2 levels of this. I don't want to confuse you, but we have 2 levels of this. There's the first course that you can take one, and then take the other, or just take one. And then if you need additional services, you can take the second course. However, in order to take the second course, you have to apply for and be found eligible for services. Is that correct still? Or not correct?
I'm so sorry.
No. Level 2, they have to be found eligible and apply for services for level 2. Is that right?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, they don't have.
Oh, good, okay, all right, I wasn't sure, okay. But anyway, so there's multiple levels of this, and again, you can take it more than once, because self-advocacy for somebody who's 14 is gonna look different than somebody who's 18, or 20, or whatever their age is. And in here is mentoring and peer mentoring, which is another new program. Do we have providers? Where are we with the peer mentoring?
Yeah, we started a pilot, last year with youth peer mentoring. So we're expanding that service now, and we're trying to build capacity so we have providers across the state. It's another type of self-advocacy training, but it's more intensive, where you have a youth mentor, a peer who's like age to the customer working alongside.
Right. Yes.
How would you become a peer mentor? Like instead of a mentoree, like if you are around that age and like someone that wants to do that.
Many of the providers are recruiting. They're looking for people to serve as mentors that they can hire. Typically, I think they've been recruiting on campuses. But you could, if you want to give me your information, I can share that with providers in that area. I'll work with somebody to get that information.
Yeah, peer mentoring is the newest program that we're launching, and it's the one we have the least experience with at this point. It's a great idea, and peer mentoring we know works. It's just a matter of getting this off the ground and getting the providers out there. I know that when my daughter was 18, she would definitely listen to somebody who was 18 rather than me. So, peer mentoring works. And we're really trying to get it to that point where, we have capacity for this. Okay, so secondary education and counseling, these are services, again, it's like guidance and counseling, we're not really at this point yet with this either, is that correct? Okay. But it's exploration of career pathways, counseling on post-secondary training opportunities, like what colleges offer what. The counseling staff have recently been trained how to do all of this. They have a new program, a new computer program, that we trained them all how to do. I don't know if anybody heard about what we call VR Works, but anyway, this is all part and parcel of what we just spent the last year training our counseling staff on. So they are doing this in the office, but it would not be part of the pre-ed services just yet, okay? Which means the non-traditional, potentially eligible student. Okay, work-based learning experience is paid or non-paid, and it's experience in the community. This is what, in the adult world, we refer to as on-the-job training. But for youth, it's called work-based learning experience. But it's based on the same module. The vendor would help the individual find a job. There would be an agreement made of what skills the individual should be learning. In this case, most of it is job shadowing and the soft skills that an individual would be able to obtain to understand what the world of work looks like. It isn't designed in the manner that the on-the-job training for the adults is skill acquisition. It's trying to help them get the skill to be able to do the job. This is introducing the student to what this job looks like. Whether they choose to go in this direction or not doesn't make any difference, and they can have multiple work experiences, and in fact that's what WIOA encourages and we encourage. We want students to have as much work-based learning experience as possible so they can make a good decision about their career choice and where they want to go. Yes.
So like if like my son just did his testing for VR
Okay.
services, right? So he's gonna be a senior, but I know they only get like a certain amount of dollars that we can use to like help them, like whether they plan on going to like post-secondary training or on the or like getting a job or something like that. So like if we were to try to get like a paid work experience job shadow type thing, would that come out of anything if he's planning on trying to go to college to live independently? Would
No.
that come out of that?
No, there is no set rate for any one individual and how much money they can receive or not receive. These questions kill me. I don't know where they come from, and it's not you, believe me. It's just these myths about VR. It's just like kills me. No, everything is in there. Yeah, I know, and I'm sure you did, and it came from someplace, but the law states that we develop an IPE that's based on the vocational goal. The vocational goal is the key. It's the cornerstone of everything that we do. So once a goal has been established, whether it's a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer, or a baker, it doesn't make any difference what the goal is. All the services are geared specifically to help that individual reach that ultimate goal, that employment outcome, okay? So there isn't a cap, there's no specific limit that an individual can have spent on them, and again, it's to help them reach. And if somebody needs, an on-the-job work experience first, and then on-the-job experience, and then formal training, that's all fine. That makes them a better employee, and that's what we ultimately want. Okay?
And VR is actually paid for my son's college.
Good.
Yeah.
Yay.
I kinda had to help them get through the process, but.
Yeah,
Because
I
they
know.
don't do that much in our area, but.
I know. It's funny,
But
just
yeah.
finding this room, I was like, well, if anybody can find this room, you can definitely navigate VR services, because it was harder to find the room than to go through all this stuff. But anyway, that's great, I'm glad, yes.
Do you find that they're for like on-the-job training or work experience for the students that are still in high school? Are those all more like physical or manual labor type jobs?
No.
Some of them in like technology and.
Nope, they can be high-tech, they can be anything, because again, it would be dependent upon what the student's interested in. Now, the pre-eds, they're not developing an IPE, but they have maybe an idea that they want to work for NASA. you know, so we would try to align it with what their interests are. The other great thing that just happened for the state of Florida is that, for a number of years, we tried to get through the legislature, workers' comp coverage for our customers to be able to participate in these opportunities. One of the biggest barriers we had was that employers would say, well, what if so-and-so got hurt? I'm responsible for that because they're in my facility, and I have to pay the premiums, and my premiums will go up, and, you know, blah, 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 all that stuff. Anyway, this last year, starting July 1, the legislature, our legislature did pass it, agreed to it, and starting July 1, vocational rehabilitation will be covering the cost of any of our customers who go to a place of employment for the liability of workers' comp. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing because it really will open up the opportunities for students. Because, I mean, they're kids, first of all, so employers don't really like kids in their place of employment, you know, just in general. And they were always worried about this one particular thing. So now, we've worked around that barrier and we will be paying for that. We don't know how much it's gonna cost because you have to be doing it for a year before you see, you know, what the premiums are gonna be based on and all of that. But, we're in the same general fund for the state for workers' comp, so it shouldn't be that expensive because it's a giant pool. So, anyway, but it's a wonderful opportunity for adults and youth to participate in these programs without the liability issue. Yes?
Has that been the largest impediment for getting companies to partner with you?
No, I'd say it was 50-50. I mean, it's definitely an impediment. It definitely was. I mean, some employers just aren't interested. They think it's going to be too much work. And that's when we tell them we're going to send in a provider that will be there to help and train. And, you know, we're not just going to send the individual in there and say, good luck. You know, we're going to provide the supports that they need. And so it's an education process continually. Yeah. So, yes.
I also got a question.
Okay.
Is it possible, Katie, when you get terminated, can you get rehired after termination, any jobs? That goes for Walmart, Publix, Target, Lowe's, Home Depot.
I can't really answer that question for you. First of all, I'm not a lawyer. My daughter is, but I can't do it for you.
Oh.
And also, it depends upon the employer and it depends upon the grounds for the termination. And, you know, some people are eligible for rehire after termination and some aren't. So it's very specific to the individual and the employer.
I also got one more question.
Okay.
Do you have to have a clean record? That means you have to not, they're gonna ask you, have you ever convicted felony? That means arrested.
Some employers have that question on there and some don't. So, again, I can't answer, you know, whether that's gonna be on an application or not. Yes. The man in the red cape.
Yeah, I was in high school, right? I used to work at vocational school for 2 years
Uh-huh.
on the job training.
Okay.
We got masonry stuff while I'm in high school.
Okay.
OJT,
Great.
vocational,
Are you doing that
Okay.
now?
VOTEC.
Are you working in that now?
No,
Why not?
I'm not. I'm gonna be an automobile detailer
Oh,
when I get out
okay.
of college.
Okay. Great. Excellent. Good for you. That's great.
Thanks.
Excellent. Okay, so, all right, so the work-based learning experience is probably the best program that we have at this point. I think it's wonderful, opens up opportunities and doors for youth, and we will be able to do the same thing for adults with OJT, okay? So, I know everything is kind of focused on the youth because this is like the new push for us. I don't want you to think that we're not serving older individuals or out-of-school individuals. We certainly are.
What are
and
the ages for the adults?
any age.
They can join at.
As long as they're not out of, you know, as long as they're out of school, high school, or aged out for high school, which is what, 22?
20,
Yeah, the age, yeah. But is it harder, someone said it's like harder for like adults to get into VR, to get VR services than
No.
it is for the high school?
No, it
like,
should not be
coming in
harder
that
for
way?
anybody to get into VR services. My card's in the back of the room. Call me.
She's like, where are you getting this from?
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to find out where you live, so I can fix all that.
Would the work-based learning experiences, is this something that they can do like during the school year within the school, or is it separate from the school, or both?
That, the law says that these experiences have to be outside of the
So
school
who's the,
hours.
is the both rehab counselors building the relationships in the communities to get these?
Some are, where we don't have providers, a lot of the counseling staff have done these OJT experiences.
It's a lot of work to get these jobs set up.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
But the
Yeah.
vendors, can they be the ones that go out and help try to get
Yes,
the
this is what vendors are
community
doing.
involved?
Yes, this is what
Yeah.
vendors are doing. But because we're all the Department of Education, we cannot take youth or students out of their core classes to do this kind of stuff, okay? So it's supposed to be done after hours, after school hours. It can be done on holidays, vacations, it can be done after whatever time school lets out, that kind of stuff. Now, the Project Search and the other program, the third-party cooperative agreement is actually done during the school day. That's different. There's a teacher and there's still education going on and other things. But this in particular has to be around the school hours.
And I think the issue, like you were saying, is the changes in academics with the school system with the access points, because I was an ESC teacher
Right.
and taught access points.
Right.
They're required to take the access equivalent of what all their high school peers are taking.
Right.
And so
Right.
they have all those credits they have to
Right,
meet.
exactly. Yeah.
But if you could creatively figure out how to make that turn into a job training.
I
that'd be
know, yeah,
wonderful.
that'd be great. Yes.
How does this work? My daughter is in the school to work program from the age of 19 to 22
Okay.
in a special needs school.
Okay.
So, this VR, we've met with the VR lady already this year, and she was in our IEP,
Okay.
but she hasn't had any kind of exposure to VR other than that. And she graduated last year from public school,
And where is she now?
Oakland County. And she's in a special needs school, in a school to work program for 18-year-olds to 22-year-olds. So you're saying do it outside of school, but they're doing it in school like the job training. They go to job training in the afternoon.
Is that, it sounds like one of the inclusive post-secondary education programs.
Right.
Is it on a college campus?
No,
or-
ma'am, it's in a K through 12 school, and they have a separate building attached to the school that's just for the 18 to 22-year-olds who have completed their 12th grade.
Okay, so she's opting to continue until 22.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But this year was the first that we've met with the VR lady
Yeah.
at the school,
Right.
and that she was included in our IEP.
Sharon.
Is the question, can she get pre-employment transition services? I'm just trying to understand the question.
Well, what I don't understand is if she's getting the job training during school, what does she do? I mean,
That
Said
might
she
be a school
graduated already?
program itself,
She-
like a grant
Right,
funding program.
that's what it sounds like.
she has certificates, she just
Okay.
had
Yeah, that sounds like, it's great. I mean, it sounds like a school program, and we wouldn't duplicate what she's getting, but when she's ready to enter or getting close to being ready to complete the program and enter into the work environment, then we would pick it up from there and help her with all of that.
Okay.
Or she can, can she or not in that age group?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you were saying.
Can she still do the pre-ed services?
14 to 21 is the start.
Yeah, she's in the
But
first,
she's
she's
already
still
in-
doing
She's
it.
20, she's 20, but she's not in a VR client yet. I mean,
All right,
We
so
just did it this year.
so you just did an informational session.
right.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the lady came to our
Next to the
IEP.
school system, she can.
Yes, she still can do the pre-ed. She can do these other things.
Okay.
Yeah.
You do
And
during the
something like
summer.
So we take this outside of school and do it outside of what the school's providing.
Yes, and you would have to have a referral made, or you can make a referral to your local VR office.
Gotcha.
And tell them what you want.
That's what-
Okay, and let me just say one more thing. We do not have our STAR program. Okay, I heard you say that. Thank you for saying that. We shot ourselves in the foot when we rolled this all out, because we were trying to separate out, trying to help people understand what this is all about, because it's brand new. I mean, we've never done this before. No state had. So in order to keep track of the non-customer or the potentially eligible student for spending money, because everything we do, we have to report to the feds, because that's where our money comes from, and the state. So they developed a thing called the STAR portals. What's it called?
Activity record.
That's it, Student Transition Activity Record. And it was a way for us to keep the numbers, to count the money, and to count the number of individual students that are going through the program. So when we rolled it out, unfortunately, really unfortunately, we rolled it out as what we called the STAR program. It isn't a STAR program. It's part of VR. It's just a VR service that's different from what we've done in the past. So it isn't a separate program. That's what a lot of people were like saying, well, it's a separate program. How is it different? It is different because you don't have to be found eligible or write an IPE. But the STAR portal is the instrument that we use to put the referrals in. And we made an agreement with most of the school districts. A lot of them didn't come on board right away, but now they're starting to come on board, where they can actually have access to it, and they give us the name and contact information of the student, and then we get in touch with the parent, because they're still most of them under 18, and then start the process from there. So the portal that we use to keep track of all of this, separate from our other system, is called the STAR system, but there is no STAR program. What we're talking about.
Self-refer.
Yes, absolutely. You can self-refer. Yes, go ahead. Oh, God, I hate that flash. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. What about home educated students?
Yes, they're still eligible to participate.
They can just call,
The local,
directly?
yep.
Okay.
RehabWorks is rehabworks.org would be the website. You can look it up and see where the closest office is. Or call Tallahassee. My card is up there. There's a toll-free number on there. And they can, help you. Oh, it's on the flyers too, yeah. These are brand new. We just hot off the press when we came down here, so,
Does
yeah.
the program help supplement the salary at all?
Supplement
My
this,
son, he volunteers at the horse ranch where he does therapeutic riding,
yeah.
but their budget is very low, so he just volunteers. But do they help with the nonprofit pay salary or anything?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
We do offer some paid,
Experience.
work-based learning experiences, but we wouldn't be able to come in then with the one that is currently volunteering with.
Oh,
Is there already like a list of vendors for that, for the paid work experience?
Yes, we do.
It's a vendor, okay. So like you have it like per county or something like
Yeah.
that?
Like, can one of the two of you talk about what's happening here this summer in Orlando with the construction company and?
Oh, yes, in Brevard County, we have a wonderful relationship, with the school system and also with, the homeowners association, where we have a lot of, community-based learning experiences or work experiences for the youth out there. So we are actually contacting or working with companies in the different construction industries, Boyd Electrical, we have the zoo, we're working with the Department of Transportation for Brevard County, and we have, I believe, over 45, almost 50 summer experiences, work experiences with youth out there. So again, it really shows a collaboration between vocational rehabilitation, engaging the community, and really trying to fill the need for the jobs that are available in the community.
And those are paid
And they're
positions.
paid positions starting at $11 an hour.
Yep.
So what we really try to do in vocational rehabilitation, again, it's all about employment and meeting the needs of the community.
Right.
So in Brevard County, there's a big gap in construction industry jobs, because most of the people that are in the construction industry are aged like 55 and they're about to retire. So now they're looking at this whole big gap of employment opportunities that they need to fill. So who better to fill them than the youth that are coming up? And what better experiences are to get them early? They're all around maybe, I think age 16 is maybe the youngest we're doing right now. But they get that opportunity to actually go and learn about the industry. They network with employers. Now they have something to put on a resume. If they do a good job, they can have letters of recommendation. And now they're kind of getting exposed to an industry that they may never been exposed to before, and that's what this is all about.
Right.
So, it really is a tremendous initiative. It's our first year doing it. But so far, we did get reports from the different employers, and everybody's doing really, really great. The students are really happy, and it's been a wonderful learning experience for vocational rehabilitation. and also for the community that's been assisting us. But again, you know, it really shows what can happen, you know, when we get together and really work together.
When you get outside of the box.
For the benefit of the student.
And we have been in the box for a very long time. VR is almost 90 years old. We've been in that same box forever. Finally, we're cracking that box wide open because these students that are participating in those construction jobs or the other jobs, the zoo, the other things that y'all have going on, it doesn't matter that their vocational goal is that. That doesn't have to be their vocational goal. It's just work experience for them so that they can figure out what it is they do want to do. Maybe some of them will love it and they'll want to go into the trades and we'll send them for training and they'll get technical skills. Some of them are just going to say, this is my first summer job and I hate it. I don't ever want to do this again. And that's great. That's what this is for. It's to give individuals with disabilities that opportunity that usually and in the past they didn't have before. Yes.
I also want to ask you something. I don't know why people like, I don't get it. I've seen people like, when they get promoted from the job that they're working at, and then if their promotion is good or bad, I mean, I don't know why people like to trade or like transfer another job, and transfer another job. I mean, is it because the employees are just they don't get enough pay? Or
Could
just
be.
the
I mean,
salary?
I can't answer that either because it really depends upon the individual and why they're doing that. But anyway, yes.
I don't get it.
That's okay.
To kind of expand upon a little bit of what you said, I'm one of the employer or the vendors in the Brevard program there. And the way I explain it to my kids and the parents that come in, it's a career exploration. And I ask all the parents, you know, how many of you were in the job that you were in when you were in high school?
Right.
None. Very, very few. We're giving the students the opportunities to try out these things.
Right.
Most of them, they want to do what their parents have done, and we find out after 2 or 3 placements, they're not their parents.
Right. And they want to do that.
Go figure.
Right, but that's because that's the only thing they've ever known. They don't know anything else.
So we give them those opportunities. They find out if they do like them or they don't. But then moreover, what we're finding is what do they like?
Right.
What environment do they work well in? What type of people do they work well with?
Right.
So that it's really it's school.
Yeah.
After school.
Yeah.
We're teaching
It
them
is.
what work is. How do you get out there and making them as successful for when they graduate as possible?
Exactly. Yes, sir.
I
Or
actually
ma'am.
have 2 questions. Well, how is the push for these services going in the Panhandle? Because we see not to be part of Alabama and not to be part of Florida typically when it comes to services. Like with my son, he received VR services when he was 18 getting out of school for 90 days, and I got a letter saying he was no longer eligible, and I had to get job coaching services through APD. You know, we just really seem to be lacking up there.
Yeah, I don't know why he would be not. 90 days he was found not eligible. What?
They just said, that's it, that's all we're doing, and we need to contact APD.
Why don't you take my card and we'll talk because that should not
It
happen.
happened, this kind of stuff happens all the
Believe
time.
me, I know what happens. I know what happens, but that's why I'm here, okay, really.
That's exactly right.
Because that should not be happening.
Where are you at in the Panhandle?
Niceville.
That's
Okay.
where I'm at,
Niceville, oh, that sounds like a great place to live, Niceville.
We never hear that.
Waiver support coordinator, I have a list of individuals that VR
I'm
is
so
basically
sorry.
refusing to work with.
Refusing to work with.
Yes, absolutely. Been denied, will not work with them. So I will have a list of consumers I will be sending.
That's great, because refusing to work with somebody is against the law.
Yes, it is, and I'm about to pull Florida disability rights in if it doesn't get fixed.
Yeah, well, that's fine too.
But I met you,
Yes.
so.
No, but that's fine, you can,
Yeah.
but advocate every which way you
Oh.
need to.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
That's why I'm here.
yeah, that's great.
We run into a lot of families that, you know, they will have you talk to them at VR. But they didn't do any, you know, they said he wasn't eligible to work. But they, I mean, and this is not, I mean.
Everybody is eligible to work.
Exactly, and when you see
Everybody
some of
is
the kids that
eligible
we're
to
talking about, you're like, what do you mean?
Well,
Right,
and the fact
right.
that they should be doing this at an early
Tell
age
them to
is
put it on
amazing.
paper
I
and
like
send
they
it
need
to you.
to
Tell them to
engage
put it on
They
paper and
also
send
have
it
a
to you. Then
budget.
contact her and then she should
Or it
get a
takes
result,
too long
if
to
not,
set up an
fully for
OJT.
this facility.
We're really doing much better with that though. I mean, it used to take a while, and now after July 1, we won't have the workers' comp thing to worry about anymore either. And we also have hired those BRRs, the business relations representatives, and what I've asked them to do, there's like 13 or 14 of them across the state, what I've asked them to do is to focus on OJTs and youth experience, work opportunity experiences, and not so much like adult jobs, because we have placement providers for that are doing that, so, oh God, I hate to hear that, I mean, that just breaks my heart,
That's a
I'm
question
so
in our
sorry.
area, we're looking at, there's kind of sheltered work experiences, and that's what some of our kids participated in last year, but not real life, like working in the community.
Okay, I want you to talk to Jan. Jan used to work in your area, and she used to work in a facility, yep. And we just talked about all of this with, what is it called, 511? 511, right? Too many numbers, too many acronyms, 911, 511, no, all these different
Placement,
things.
that's something that doesn't meet what they want to do.
Right, and you know, I can tell you when I first got here in '03, I came from Massachusetts, and I had been doing this for years and years and years. I used to hear that somebody's not eligible for services because they're too severe. Well, that is just bunk. That is ridiculous. That is what we're here for. So there's no too severe. With Discovery and all the other services that we now have, because we didn't have those before. So counselors didn't know what in the world to do with people, so they would just say, you're not eligible for services, which is crazy. They are eligible for services, especially if they're getting Social Security. They're automatically presumed eligible for services. And the job of the counselor is to figure out what to do with that individual and how to help them figure out where they fit in the world of work and what supports do they need to be able to do that. That is what we're here for. So please, call me, talk to me, and I will talk to the management staff, and I will talk to everybody. And the management staff that's here knows that I will talk to them, because we're not doing this anymore. Yes.
So
You're
just
right with me.
like, I'm just gonna assume, okay, so from what we used to be told was that, or what we were initially told was that, like, it's either or. So like when she went in, like we stopped through here because we're taking her to college tomorrow. Like she has to check into her dorm.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, and our VR person has been amazing.
Great.
Like amazing.
Oh, thank God, a
And
good
like,
story.
we were like,
Yay, stand up, yay!
I mean, that lady's on it. We were scraping up money to get her laptop because she can't use her little phone book and stuff. Done. I mean, anything done. But what we were initially told, and I think my person is kind of new, but we were told that it's either or. Either you go into VR for work services, or you're gonna go into VR, and because I was like, well, I thought the initial goal, what the overall goal is to work, is to get to the goal of what you want to do as a career. And it was, at first we were told it's either, VR can either help you find a job, or we can help you with post-secondary education that will help you find a job, but you can't do both. So we're finding here, like, she can actually be receiving VR services at the college she's going to, and maybe possibly be a peer mentor and do like a work
absolutely.
thing.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we were always told it's either or. So I said,
Absolutely.
well, we choose school.
Right, right. That's right.
So that's not.
No, with these other services, there's multiple services. It kind of used to be that way, and it's too long to explain it to you right now, but not anymore.
And that's
we
I
need
think
to help
what we
students with
need to
that.
know as people, like everybody has to get that word out that it is not that way anymore.
Right.
And the
Right.
way that, what's happening possibly there is, they may have been trying to tell you, well, if you're going into post-secondary, you're not gonna focus on placement right now. What should have been explained to you, if it wasn't, the benefits of actually getting work experiences while you're actually pursuing your education. Because
Absolutely.
when you think about it, the more work experience that you're gaining during that time, you're gonna be more successful and have a better chance at getting the job at the end, and that's the goal. So that's probably the piece that may have not been.
Yeah, because we initially turned VR down. We were like, yeah, no, forget it. And then this new lady came about, and that's when and she's been amazing. And then now I'm sitting in here finding out all this other information.
Right.
Yeah,
she left out that big, really big piece.
You're not gonna pay placement service per se, but you should have said you can
Right.
get OJT,
Exactly.
you can get work experience,
Exactly.
which
Yeah.
is not placement, it's
Right.
work experience.
Right.
See, so it's a little bit of a
It's
different
different, right.
thing, so you kinda just
Yeah.
explain it, maybe, you didn't get into it.
Yeah, it was either like, we help you find a job or we can help you do like
had to ask
Votech
the
or
school
something.
thing.
And we were
We
like,
paid for
it's
his
like
junior
neither, and then
college,
finally we
and
were
then
like,
found
yeah.
out that they would pay, so they're paying for university and his house.
Which is
has
good,
lived
thank
2
God,
hours
but still,
away.
yeah.
Yeah,
great.
but it was the day before classes started that we found out they were covered.
All right, well, anyway, thank you, everybody. I will be here to answer questions, and